So we looked at that. So now we've made a connection from lifetime, how much you're earning, and the message that is being drawn to you. Then we went into another exercise. So exercise we did was, because everybody was angry, it's like, okay, so what are my solutions now if I know that I'm capped on how much I earn by how much the organization determines. So we drew some triangles. So if you just draw like one triangle small and then overlay it with like a bigger one, I think I could have, maybe I kept this. Anyway, so this is how basically we drew it. And what this is about is that the amount of money a person spends, because I looked at the triangles as the size of the organization, is that you're capped on how much you earn by who the person in the organization is that is paid the most. Okay, so if you have a CEO maybe who earns, let's say, like $10,000, which is like 38 million in Uganda, there is also another CEO somewhere who gets paid $20,000. Then there's another one who is paid maybe $100,000. Yeah, somewhere. There is somewhere out there. So when you look at it, it would look like this. But then now when you go down in the organization, when you look at it in a plain way, if I am an accountant with the same level of skill set, and I'm in the organization that is whose earning ceiling has been determined by the CEO at maybe, and I'm maybe being paid, maybe I'm looking at, if he's being paid, let's say like $1,000 a month. If it's $1,000 a month, as you can see, with the same skill set, this organization sees them as at this rate, because the triangle has already determined how much the person can earn at a maximum. Okay. Next, if the person is working in the organization where it's the earning ceiling is capped by the CEO at 20,000, you'll find that he gets paid maybe $1,800 according to the size of this organization. So the smaller box, the smaller triangle is for the person with the 1,000, and then the bigger one is for the person of 1.8. So that means that for the same skill set, if the organization capped at 100,000, it means for the same skill set in this organization, then the person would be, maybe he could actually be earning with the same skill set, maybe different job description, maybe they could be at 5,000, maybe at 5,000 a month. So we looked at that as your earning is capped by how your human resources department designed the compensation plan. So same skill set can pay differently in different places. So the only solution a person has, if they would have to stay in the same vehicle, would be to jump from one ceiling cap with the same skill set and go to another place. And that explains why people keep on jumping from one job to another, because the value that is attached to the same skill set in different organizations is different. Okay, so that was one path of like, okay, I don't want to be earning 5,000 Uganda shillings person an hour. How do you end that? You go to a place where there is a higher ceiling cap, because that's why I said in the first part you're doing your personality, because you're finding a person who's choosing that job path is choosing safety, retirement. There's the messaging that goes around with the choice you make for your money. Okay, that was a good one. So now the solution for these people here on this was to basically to know, if you choose the same vehicle, you cap your earning. Or it's one of those things of insanity. Insanity defined is doing the same thing and expecting different results. All right? So that is why we come. So the solution here was either you look for a bigger organization or you jump out of the triangles. And sometimes the job of jumping out of a triangle is to build your own triangle, meaning do a business or do a side business where at least you're running on profits and not wages. Okay, that was the discussion. Next thing we covered, what covered next now came to one of the Kiyosaki's frameworks. But what I did in this one, we superimposed something we called, I found as well in my research, but a long time ago, is the cash flow quadrant of Kiyosaki, and then there's something called the wealth triangle. I know it's by Dunlock. If you person online, you'll find a couple of things of that kind of information. So in this discussion, if you've seen the cash flow quadrant, everybody sees that book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. People see that book for cash flow quadrant, but when you ask, have you read the book, you find that people actually haven't read the book, but they've seen it plenty of times in their world. So for the reading diet for the class on that day, we said put cash flow quadrant on that day on your list, Rich Dad Poor Dad and cash flow quadrant. Just 2 books. One thing I've also seen about when you teach people and you overload them with books that they should read, you find because you've given too much information away, people don't take any action on any of them. Okay, so cash flow quadrant, if you're familiar with it, you've seen something like that. A circle split in half with an employee, self-employed, running a business, then investment. Okay, so for this one, where did the discussion go? Part of it went back to how a person views money. So some people decide to choose the path of going sequentially through the cash flow quadrant, but you can see that on one side you do active money, you make active money as a result. On the other side, you can actually have passive as a potential. But then you'll find that, what is active money anyway? Active is all money you earn is based on time. So meaning that when you work as an employed person, you work in a triangle. So your income potential is capped by how much a CEO earns and how the compensation plan is designed by the organization. We are putting this money outside things like allowances and everything, but as in the constant things, okay? Self-employed. Self-employed is also tagged on money, but the difference between the employed person and self-employed person is normally they're doing the same work, but because they wanted to be able to control how much value is tagged to them per hour, they're trying to find that they're avoiding being boxed in an hourly rate. They want to do maybe the same work for themselves, but an hourly rate. The only limit there is they are still working in such a way that they have to still, it's a time for money, but at least in this case, they have agency in their own life and they can determine how much money it is, rather than the other side where it's a structure, you have to fit in the structure. Only problem with also self-employed, which we all know, is for you to make more money as a result, you have to work harder. You have to work more hours, okay? But then guess what? How many hours do we have? We only have so many hours. You only have 24 hours in a day, and there's no one who can actually work the whole 24 hours. So you're capped by time on the self-employed journey. So now when you go to the business side, so a person can decide to be employed, then go to self-employed. Most of us begin as employed because that's how society has kind of designed. Society is mainly on that path, employed. Then when you get the awareness, people get self-employed. Then next is the business side. Business means you've realized that there's only so much time that you can attribute to something. Right now, you decide to use leverage vehicles. One of the leverage vehicles in business is to use other people's time. That is how you you employ people to work, to do the thing that you used to do. Okay, that is one of the leverage vehicles a person can use is other people's time. The other leverage vehicle a person uses as a business can be automation, meaning you have systems and tools that actually help you to deliver the work as well. And then one of the third vehicles that actually is a leverage tool as a business is capital, meaning you have some money somewhere and you know you have the potential to make it grow, so you deploy the capital so that it can actually create more money by solving a problem and providing a service to people who are willing to pay for that service. Okay, then the next one is being an investor, meaning you use capital to grow capital. You use money, and that's where you find people who decide to do investment. There are so many parts under here, but then you find people may want to do like real estate. People who invest in like stock market. So you find there are so many other investment vehicles that people can deploy the money they already have, or they can actually crowdsource for big amounts of money and then invest. And what I found in the book for Cash Flow Quadrant, you find that even the investors, there are levels to being an investor. There's investors who are lazy. You think that you get your money, give it to someone else to manage it for you. Nah, that's like on a lower level. Then you'll find you can actually be a person who is on a low risk end, and person says, I invest my money like in bonds. That's also a type of person who's running investor. But then the reason you're choosing certain vehicles is because of how much risk you're willing to take on. So now that is now when you go back to the mindset part, because you find that people who make money on the investment side, it's normally high risk, high return. And then there's also that part where you lose money, but then it's high risk, and that's the game they're playing every day. It's basically about being able to know the game so well that it's risky, yes, but the likelihood you may lose your money is lessened. Okay, so that's what it looked at in that part. I'm trying to see what else we covered in the class. Okay, so then I talked about superimposing this to the wealth triangle by Dunlop. So given the framework which tells you that a person can actually be employed to self-employed to business to investor. So one thing I know a person who is like a photographer, and they basically are self-employed, but when they make their money, they deploy it in investment. So they actually have been skilling themselves on the investment side, so that when they make money on the active side, they deploy it and they have the skill set to invest it so that it grows more money. That is one path I've seen. You also found people who are maybe employed but still want to play the games in the investor side. The limitation of a person who is employed, mindset-wise, a person who is employed is safety. The likelihood that they'll do high-risk investments is low. High risk, high return. So low risk, low return. So you find they'll play their money game on the investment side in vehicles that are not very, very highly profitable. So that's the dynamic around much of the cash flow quadrant. If you really want more information about the book, maybe I can put it down below in the description, and then you can shop it, find it. I think it's very available online for free. Okay, now superimposing the cash flow quadrant on the wealth triangle. Wealth triangle has 3 components. One is scalable business. The next one is investment, scalable business. I'm looking at it in my head. Scalable business, investment, and skill, and getting skill. So it has skill, investment, and scalable business. Those are 3. So when you looked at that framework, it meant that for you to make money, you needed first was a skill, meaning you have a skill that is valuable in the marketplace, and people are willing to pay for that skill. So sometimes you find like a person asks, I have this money, I want to invest. So you find that most of the time, the better thing a person can do is invest it in themselves for skill acquisition. Skill acquisition that they can actually take to the marketplace and get paid for. So I like that framework puts it in perspective that sometimes just because you have money doesn't mean you have to be to invest. Sometimes you find that the only variable right now is you, and if you skill yourself, you can actually do the same. You can skill yourself to a point where you can go to the marketplace and charge, meaning that one of the most interesting skills that a person, essential skills a person needs is to learn sales. Sales, even if you're going to look for a job, much as you do it once, at one point you're going to sell your time anyway. And guess what? You're going to go for an application. You're going to go through an application process to sell for someone to buy your time. And that's how you end up being boxed up. Being triangled up in some triangle that has an income cap. I know I'm in one right now, but it's the awareness of these things to be like, okay, now I know where I am, so I can actually make a path outside it. Okay. So we have the skill side. Now, scalable business, meaning you have the skill, so now you can go to the marketplace with your skill and ask for a price, and that is how you build the business and become at least you come either from the self-employed, if you have the skill, to now a business where you charge for the services you provide. Okay, then investment is the last one. So it's like a superimposition. One gives you the structure, one gives the application of the structure as well. So I like these two frameworks, and I think with that we're able to establish, maybe as a crowning moment for this workshop that we did, was to now think about, rethink their goals. Okay, right now everybody knows what they've done wrong. If you do the same thing and get results you don't like, change, right? Meaning that if the output, you don't like the output, change the recipe, change the input. So that was the biggest lesson that we got. In this class, we didn't cover anything to do with if you have 1 million, how do you split it up? 10% to tithe? I don't know. No. We, at that point, we said, we have very little money from the group that was there. Why spend money trying to conserve little money when you can expend that energy to make more? I think that's my foundation. But I don't know if it makes sense, but that's how I was thinking about it. And then when I looked at it further, I talked to a couple of friends of mine who have done like some financial literacy classes within our country, and I was trying to see if anything that I said was really off what they teach. And I was like, okay, now I think I've signed up for a financial literacy class to see what is actually taught in our local market on financial literacy. So that is basically what we covered. I know this is one of those subjects that is much, much, much bigger, but I found that being intentional about the people you keep yourself around, so meaning on the mindset part, take care of your mindset. Oh, the last thing we talked about was learning about money itself. It's one thing to want to make the money. It's another thing to know what you're chasing. And for what I shared with the group was this: the conversations that have educated me most about money were crypto conversations, because the people who are telling us to join the crypto wagon, if they were good, their job was educate the person about the money system which you're running right now, which is the fiat system. Okay, that's your own research to do. Then the job was, this is the system we use right now, this is what's wrong with it, and this is who is in control. Now, if this is what and everybody understands what we use right now, for them to make a compelling message for a person to change vehicles, if they understand that what they are in has limitations, is not good enough, then we have another way, which is the crypto and blockchain, crypto, and all that stuff is the same. So if you could see the demerits of this, it could give you the urgency to be like, you know what, I would like to take a chance on another money system, like a rebel. If you call yourself, I would call that being a rebel. You'd be like, okay, there's this that works, this is what we use currently, but I don't think it's working for us, so now we take it aside. So one of the things I said is people need to go and learn about money. It's one thing to know that you have money in your pocket or something, but what does money mean? What's the history of money? For example, do you know that at one point there was a gold standard? And now there is not, now we use, why are we using the dollar as the currency of trade, money history? So I think with that, I think I'd covered most of everything that I had to cover on that day, but at least on the action side, we agreed that one thing was everybody in the room needed to go learn about money for themselves, okay? Next was to be much more intentional about where the money goes. Second thing. Third thing was to map out their journey to come through the cash flow quadrant with implementation using the wealth triangle by Dan Lok. And and then also to create money goals for themselves, and especially when they want to do their money goals, stretch them out further enough, so without putting them in a vehicle that limits how you move. I think that is much of what we covered in this class. I think I'll give it a structure one of these days, and if I run the class, maybe I'll run it by here first. I hope you get value from this. Subscribe to the channel, and I don't know if I've been rambling around. I like that YouTube as a channel. My video style is Just record without edits, put it out there. We shall improve this as we go along. Otherwise, thanks for your time. I'll be seeing you in the next video. Adios.